she slipped from the ridge. The cowboys' rope became the thread that bound their souls. The ridge stretched across the horizon like a jagged spine under the twin suns. Red dust swirled in the wind, and the sky glowed with streaks of gold and violet. Mara stood near the edge, her boots digging into the rocky surface. She had come alone to this ridge, seeking the rare crystals that grew only here, hidden among the jagged cliffs. She squinted at the distance, trying to spot the faint shimmer of the minerals, when her foot slipped. One moment she was steady, the next she was sliding down the steep slope, rocks and gravel tumbling beneath her. The air rushed past her face, and her heart jumped into her throat. She tried to stop, grabbing at anything she could, but the slope was loose, sharp, and unforgiving. Her pack swung wildly, catching on jagged rocks and dragging her faster down the ridge. Then a shadow fell over her. Mara looked up, blinking against the sun, and saw a figure standing on the top of the ridge. A cowboy, alone, tall and rugged, with a wide-brimmed hat and a long coat flapping in the wind. His arm shot out, holding a thick rope that glinted strangely in the sunlight. "Hold on," he shouted. His voice carried across the distance with confidence and calm, the kind of voice that told Mara he was not afraid. She reached for the rope, her fingers scraping against the rough material. The cowboy swung it expertly, looping it around a jagged rock, and then tossing the end to her. "Grab it," he barked. Her hands closed around the rope just as she tumbled over a loose boulder. The lasso tightened, jerking her violently, but it saved her from falling into the wide canyon below. The cowboy's muscles strained as he held the other end, planting his boots firmly into the red dust. Slowly, painfully, he pulled her up. Mara's breath came in ragged gasps as she felt the rope lift her higher. Each pull brought her closer to the ridge, closer to safety, and she couldn't help but notice the steady determination in the cowboy's eyes. He was strong, unyielding, and somehow calm, even with her weight dragging him backward. Finally, her boots hit solid ground. She collapsed onto the ridge, gasping and shaking. The cowboy dropped the rope, kneeling beside her. He reached out a hand to help her up, and she took it, feeling the warmth and strength in his grip. "Are you all right?" he asked, brushing dust from her coat. I think so," Mara said, her voice trembling. She looked up at him, truly seeing him for the first time. His face was sunburned, rough, with a short beard and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He wore the kind of leather coat that had clearly seen 100 rides, and his hat shaded his face but did not hide the faint scar along his cheek. "You've got guts sliding down that ridge like that," he said, a hint of a smile touching his lips. Mara laughed nervously. "I didn't mean to. I thought I was careful." "Careful won't save you from a ridge like this," he said. He stood, offering her his hand again to pull her upright. "Name's Jace." "Mara," she said, taking his hand. She felt the rough calluses on his palm and realized he was someone used to hard work, someone who lived by his strength and skill. For a moment, they just stood there, the wind whipping around them, watching the alien landscape stretch endlessly. Jagged rocks, glowing plants, and distant spires of stone formed a wild and dangerous frontier. Mara's eyes softened as she looked at Jace. She had come here for crystals, for her settlement, but suddenly the danger felt less frightening with him there. "You came out of nowhere," she said. "How did you see me?" "I've been riding the ridges for years," Jace said, nodding toward the cliffs. "I know the signs. Loose rocks, sliding dust. Anyone out here alone, I keep an eye on things." Mara swallowed hard, realizing that her usual solitude in exploring this ridge had been a risk she hadn't considered. I didn't expect anyone else here," she admitted. "That's the problem with expecting," Jace said with a shrug. "You can never be sure what's out here. Sometimes it's just wind and dust. Sometimes it's something that wants to eat you." Mara laughed nervously, imagining some wild alien predator stalking her along the cliffs. The wind kicked up, carrying red dust across the ridge, and she pulled her coat tighter around her. "Often rescue strangers?" she asked, curiosity mixing with gratitude. "Not often," Jace admitted, his eyes scanning the horizon. "But when someone's life is on the line, I don't think twice." He gave her a small smile. "Besides, you seemed like you could use a hand." Something about him was different from anyone she had met before. There was courage, yes, but also a quiet steadiness, a patience that came from years of surviving in a harsh, unforgiving world. "I thank you," she said finally. "I don't know what I would have done." "You'd have found a way," Jace said. "But it's better with two than one." They began walking along the ridge together, careful with every step. Mara's legs were shaking from the fall, and she realized how close she had come to disaster. Jace walked beside her, his eyes constantly scanning the cliffs, alert for any sign of danger. As they moved, Mara couldn't help but notice the small details. How his hand rested lightly on the hilt of a strange weapon at his side, how his boots made almost no sound on the red dust, how his eyes seemed to take in every detail of the terrain. He was a cowboy, yes, but also something more. Someone used to surviving not just the land, but the unknown dangers that lurked beyond it. "I'm looking for crystals," Mara said after a while, breaking the silence. "Rare ones only found in certain ridges. My settlement depends on them." Jace nodded. "I know the type. Dangerous work. Hard on the body and risky. You're lucky I happened by. I didn't think anyone else would be here," she said, a hint of embarrassment in her voice. "I thought I could handle it alone." "Sometimes alone is fine," Jace said. "Sometimes it's deadly." "You're better off with a friend." Mara looked at him, and for a moment words failed her. She wanted to say more, to explain why she had come, to tell him about her people, her home, her mission, but the words didn't come. Instead, she nodded, feeling a connection she could not yet name. As they reached a safer section of the ridge, Jace paused. He looked out across the alien landscape, eyes sharp and thoughtful. "This world has a way of testing people," he said quietly. "It's beautiful, yes, but it doesn't forgive mistakes." Mara followed his gaze, taking in the glowing plants, the distant cliffs, and the swirling dust storms far below. She felt both awe and fear. I guess I've learned it the hard way," she admitted. Jace glanced at her, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Lesson learned is better than lesson paid in blood." They continued walking, the twin suns sinking lower in the sky. Shadows stretched long across the ridge and the wind carried a chill. Mara felt tired but alive, grateful for the cowboy who had appeared at just the right moment. She couldn't know what the next day would bring, what dangers or discoveries awaited, but for now, she was safe. And for the first time since she had set out alone, Mara realized that the ridge, the wild land, and even the alien world itself felt less lonely. With Jace beside her, the danger seemed manageable, the unknown less frightening, and the thread connecting them, though unspoken, felt as strong as the rope that had saved her life. As night approached, the ridge glowed softly under the twin moons, and Mara felt a quiet determination growing inside her. She would find the crystals. She would survive this world. And somehow she knew she would see the cowboy again, wherever this wild alien frontier might take them. The ridge faded behind them as Mara and Jace descended into a valley bathed in the golden light of the setting suns. Strange plants, tall and glowing with soft blue and green hues, bent in the wind as if acknowledging their presence. The air smelled different here, earthy, metallic, and faintly sweet. Mara followed Jace closely, her steps careful on the uneven ground. "This valley is tricky," Jace said, scanning the area. "The rocks shift easily, and some of these plants aren't friendly. They'll grab at you if you get too close." She didn't want to risk another accident. "I'll be careful," she said, adjusting her pack. Her fingers brushed the small collection of tools she carried for mining crystals, and she felt the familiar thrill of her work. "You know," Jace said, his eyes never leaving the valley floor, "most people don't explore alone in places like this. You've got guts. My settlement depends on these crystals. We don't have much left, and if I don't find them, people will suffer." Jace nodded. "Responsibility can be heavy, but strength isn't just about muscle. It's about patience, thinking ahead, and knowing when to ask for help." He glanced at her. "Sometimes the last part is the hardest." "I've always been alone," she admitted quietly. "I thought I could do everything myself." "But you don't always have to." They moved forward in silence for a while, the only sounds being the soft crunch of rocks under their boots and the occasional whisper of wind through the alien plants. Shadows grew longer as the suns dipped lower, painting the valley in shades of orange and violet. Suddenly, a soft sound echoed through the valley, a low, humming noise, almost like a vibration in the ground. Mara froze. "What's that?" she whispered. Jace crouched slightly, his hand on the hilt of a strange weapon at his side. "Stay close," he said. "Could be nothing. Could be trouble." The humming grew louder, and Mara's eyes widened as she saw movement among the glowing plants. Something was coming. Fast, low to the ground, sleek and shadowy. Its shape was difficult to make out, but its eyes glowed faint red, scanning them as if it had been waiting for prey. "An alien predator," Jace muttered. "Stay behind me." She wanted to run, but she trusted Jace. Slowly, carefully, she moved behind him, her eyes fixed on the creature. It paused, sensing their presence, then shifted its weight and crouched as if preparing to leap. Jace's voice was calm, but firm. "Don't move suddenly! Watch its legs! It's fast, but predictable." The creature lunged, and Jace reacted instantly, swinging a small rope from his belt, looping it around one of the creature's legs. It yelped and twisted, but Jace held firm, his strength keeping it restrained. Mara grabbed a nearby rock and threw it, hitting the creature's side. It hissed and struggled, but the two of them worked together, Jace's rope and Mara's quick thinking keeping the predator at bay. Finally, the creature broke free, but instead of attacking again, it darted into the glowing plants, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. Mara exhaled, her hands shaking. "You all right?" Jace asked, looking at her with concern. I think so," she said, her voice trembling. "That was close. Too close. But you handled yourself well. Not everyone would have thought to throw something." Mara smiled weakly. "I learned from the fall," she said. Jace laughed softly. "Good luck." They continued deeper into the valley, their eyes constantly scanning for movement. Mara noticed how Jace moved with ease, his body relaxed but ready. He pointed out plants that were safe to touch, others that could burn if handled incorrectly, and some that could be used as emergency food or medicine. Mara followed his instructions, learning quickly. "You're a good teacher," she said after a while, watching him show her how to read the tracks in the soft soil. Jace shrugged. "Just experience. You'll pick it up." As night fell, they found a small cave tucked into the base of a rocky hill. The entrance was wide enough to shelter them, and the interior was dry and safe. Mara set down her pack, exhausted but exhilarated. She had survived the ridge, the valley, and the predator, all with Jace by her side. "Not bad for a day's work," Jace said, settling against the cave wall. "You hungry?" "I could eat," Mara admitted, untying a small rations pack. She handed him some of the nutrient bars inside. They ate in silence for a moment, watching the alien sky outside the cave. Stars blinked faintly, and the moons cast pale light over the valley. Mara felt a sense of peace she hadn't known since leaving her home settlement. "You know," Jace said, breaking the silence, "life out here is strange. It can be lonely, dangerous, and unpredictable. But sometimes you meet people who make it worthwhile." Mara looked at him, sensing the unspoken meaning in his words. She wanted to ask him what he meant, but she didn't. Instead, she nodded, understanding without needing an explanation. As they settled down for the night, Mara realized something important. She wasn't alone anymore. She had Jace, someone who had saved her life, taught her survival, and shared this alien world with her. The bond between them, though quiet and unspoken, felt strong, like the rope that had saved her on the ridge, holding them together even when the world seemed ready to tear them apart. Sleep came slowly, Mara's mind racing with thoughts of the crystals she had come to find, the dangers they had faced, and the mysterious cowboy who now walked beside her. She thought of the rope, of the predator, of the vast alien valley stretching endlessly before them. And she realized, with a thrill she could not deny, that adventure was only just beginning. The night was quiet except for the wind whistling through the valley. Mara listened to it, imagining it carrying stories of the unknown, creatures lurking, dangers waiting, and mysteries hidden among the alien plants. She felt both fear and excitement. The unknown was no longer something she faced alone. She had someone to share it with. When she opened her eyes again, the first light of the twin suns was breaking over the horizon, casting a warm glow across the valley. Jace was already awake, scanning the ridge with sharp eyes. He looked at her and gave a small nod. Mara returned it, feeling a sense of camaraderie stronger than words could express.
"Ready?" Jace asked. Mara stood, brushing dust from her coat.
"Ready." Together, they stepped out of the cave, facing the alien frontier. The valley was alive with color and movement, strange birds with glowing feathers flying across the sky, and the plants swaying in the gentle wind. Mara felt a thrill of anticipation. They would face more challenges, more dangers, but she no longer felt fear. With Jace beside her, she felt capable, strong, and connected. The rope that had saved her on the ridge was gone now, coiled neatly at Jace's side, but its meaning remained. It was a symbol of trust, of connection, of lives intertwined in a world that was vast, wild, and unpredictable. Mara understood now that some threads were invisible, yet stronger than steel, binding people together through danger, adventure, and shared experience. As they moved forward into the valley, Mara felt a quiet excitement building. The crystals she sought were out there, waiting to be found. The frontier was dangerous, yes, but it was beautiful, alive, and full of possibilities. And through it all, she would not face it alone. Jace walked beside her, his eyes scanning the horizon, his hand occasionally brushing the hilt of his weapon, always alert, always protective. Mara glanced at him and felt a warmth in her chest. The cowboy had come out of nowhere, saved her life, and now walked beside her in this alien world. Somehow, she knew their journey was only beginning, and that together they could face anything. The valley stretched endlessly before them, alive with color, danger, and promise. Mara and Jace moved forward, step by step, ready for whatever this strange world had in store. And with each step, the invisible thread between them grew stronger, binding their fates together as surely as the rope had bound her to life on the ridge. The valley's soft light shifted to a deeper blue as night approached. Mara and Jace had spent the day navigating narrow paths and glowing alien flora, and the air was thick with the scents of unknown plants. Their bodies were tired, but the thrill of discovery kept them moving. Jace scanned the horizon as always, while Mara followed closely, her pack lighter than yesterday thanks to careful rationing. "We're close," Jace said, his voice low but confident. "I can feel it." "The ridge up ahead has the kind of rock formations where the crystals grow." Mara's eyes widened. "You really think we'll find them?" "I've been right before," Jace replied, giving her a small, reassuring smile. "And I don't plan on being wrong now." The valley narrowed into a canyon, shadows deepening as the twin moons rose. The glowing plants here were thicker, their soft light illuminating twisted roots that grew over the rocky path like living vines. Mara had to step carefully, avoiding plants that could snap or burn if touched. She felt the rope that had saved her on the ridge, Jace's rope, coil in her memory, a quiet symbol of trust and connection. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shivered faintly, as if vibrating. Mara froze. "Did you feel that?" she whispered. Jace crouched slightly, his eyes scanning the area. "Something's near. Stay close." From the shadows, a low growl echoed, vibrating through the canyon walls. Mara's heart raced. She peered into the darkness and saw it. A predator, sleek and black with glowing red eyes creeping along the roots. Its claws scraped against rock as it circled them, looking for an opening. "Move slowly," Jay said, stepping in front of her. "Don't make sudden moves." Mara did as he instructed, her eyes wide, watching the predator's every twitch. The creature's head turned toward them and it hissed, a sound that made her shiver. She could see the sharp edges of its teeth, the faint shimmer of its claws. "We can't outrun it," Mara whispered. "No," Jace agreed, his voice calm, "but we can outthink it." He gestured for her to follow him toward a narrow rock ledge. "We can use the terrain. When it lunges, we can trap it." Mara nodded, following his movements. They positioned themselves near a large rock formation, its edges sharp and dangerous. The predator hissed again and charged, faster than Mara could believe. Jace reacted instantly, swinging a short rope from his belt and lassoing the creature's front leg. It yelped and twisted, thrashing violently. Mara grabbed a glowing plant branch and swung it, distracting the creature as Jace tightened the rope. For a moment they had control. Then the predator broke free, lunging toward them with terrifying speed. Jace grabbed Mara and pulled her backward, sliding down a small slope. They stumbled, but Mara kept her balance, gripping Jace's arm. The predator paused, evaluating them, before retreating into the shadows, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. Mara exhaled, shaking. That was too close." Jace looked at her with concern. "You okay?" I think so," she said, her voice trembling. I didn't expect it to be so fast." Jace nodded. "That's why you stick with me. It's dangerous out here alone." Mara felt a warmth in her chest, a mix of gratitude and admiration. She realized how much she relied on Jace, not just for protection, but for guidance, for steady reassurance in this alien world. They continued cautiously, the glow from the plants casting eerie shadows on the canyon walls. Mara noticed how Jace moved with careful precision, every step measured, every glance alert. He was more than just a cowboy. He was a guide, a protector, someone whose experience was invaluable in this dangerous frontier. As they reached a small plateau, Mara spotted the crystals, faint, glowing shards embedded in the rocks, shimmering in soft blue and green hues. Her heart leapt. "There! Look!" she whispered, pointing. Jace followed her gaze. "Beautiful," he said softly. "Careful, though. The rocks around them are unstable." Mara nodded, approaching slowly, her fingers brushing the cool surface of the crystals. She felt a thrill of accomplishment. This was what she had come for. She reached for one and it came loose easily, glowing brighter in her hand. "Got it," she whispered, holding it up for Jace to see. "Good," Jace said. "We need more." And we need to be quick. They moved carefully, gathering the crystals while avoiding the unstable rocks and strange plants. Mara's pack slowly filled with the glowing shards, each one a small victory. Jace watched her, occasionally pointing out safer spots or helping her balance on the uneven ground. Suddenly a sound echoed through the canyon. A series of clicks, mechanical and deliberate. Mara froze. "What's that?" Jace's eyes narrowed. "Scavengers," he said. "Not alive, not natural. Machines." Before they could react, a group of small spider-like machines skittered into view, their metal legs clattering on rock. Red sensors glowed on their bodies as they advanced, scanning for the crystals. "We've got company," Jace muttered. "Stay behind me." Mara felt her heart race. She had faced the predator before, but these machines were different. Relentless, precise, and unfeeling. Jace swung his rope, knocking one machine off balance, while Mara grabbed a rock and hurled it at another. Sparks flew as the metal creatures skidded across the rocks. "We need a plan," Jace said, his mind racing. "We can't fight them all." Mara's eyes scanned the area. "The ledge," she whispered. "We can push them off the edge." Jace nodded. "Good thinking." Together, they moved carefully, positioning the machines near the cliff edge. With precise throws and rope maneuvers, they sent each machine skidding over the rocks, tumbling down the canyon with clattering metal crashes. Mara's hands were trembling, her adrenaline high, but she felt a surge of triumph as the last machine disappeared over the edge. "Nice work," Jace said, clapping her on the shoulder. "You've got quick thinking under pressure." Mara smiled weakly, catching her breath. "We make a good team." "We do." The canyon fell silent again, the glowing plants swaying gently in the alien wind. Mara held one of the crystals, feeling its cool, smooth surface in her hand. She realized how much she trusted Jace, how much she depended on his presence. The rope that had saved her on the ridge was gone now, but the bond it symbolized felt stronger than ever. As they settled near a small alcove to rest, Mara glanced at Jace. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for everything today." "You would have done the same for me," Jace said, smiling faintly. "Maybe even faster." Mara shook her head. "No. I would have panicked." "Probably." They shared a quiet moment, watching the alien stars twinkle above the canyon. Mara felt a deep sense of connection, not just to Jace, but to the wild, untamed world around them. She understood now that survival wasn't just about crystals or strength. It was about trust, partnership, and courage. The night grew colder, and they huddled close for warmth. Mara felt the unspoken bond between them, the invisible thread that connected their lives from the ridge to the valley, from danger to safety. It was fragile yet strong, delicate yet unbreakable. A rope made not of fibers, but of trust, respect, and shared experience. "We should rest," Jay said after a while. "Tomorrow, we need to find the main crystal cluster." "It's bigger, more valuable, but also more dangerous." Mara nodded. "I'm ready." "Good," Jay said, "'cause we'll face it together." She smiled, feeling a surge of courage. Together, they could face anything this alien frontier threw at them. Predators, machines, or treacherous landscapes. And through it all, the invisible thread between them held strong, binding their fates and souls together. As they closed their eyes and listened to the alien wind, Mara realized that the adventure was far from over. The ridge, the valley, and the canyon had tested her, but Jace had been there every step of the way. She felt a sense of hope, of excitement, and of trust she had never known before. Tomorrow, they would face the crystal cluster. Tomorrow, the dangers would be greater and the stakes higher, but Mara no longer felt fear. She had Jace beside her, guiding her, protecting her, and sharing the journey. And that, she realized, was more valuable than any crystal in the alien frontier. The night deepened, and the two of them drifted into sleep, the canyon silent except for the whispering wind. The predator was gone, the machines destroyed, and the crystals safely gathered. Yet the adventure continued, and Mara knew that the invisible thread between her and Jace would guide them through whatever challenges lay ahead. The first light of dawn crept over the alien horizon, casting long shadows across the jagged canyon. Mara and Jace stood at the edge of a vast plateau, staring at the crystal cluster ahead. The shards gleamed like frozen starlight, embedded in the rock in patterns both natural and strange. The sight was breathtaking, but Mara knew it would not be easy. The ground around the cluster was treacherous, sharp rocks, unstable ledges, and glowing plants that could burn if touched. "We need to be careful," Jace said, his hand resting on his rope. One wrong step and the whole cluster could collapse. Mara nodded, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and fear. She adjusted her pack and tightened her boots. "I'm ready," she said, her voice firm despite the nervous flutter in her chest. Together they stepped forward. Jace led the way, scanning every rock and plant for danger. Mara followed, mimicking his careful movements. The rope that had saved her on the ridge yesterday hung at Jace's side, a silent reminder of trust and connection. As they approached the crystal cluster, the ground beneath them shivered slightly. Mara froze. "Did you feel that?" she whispered. Jace crouched, eyes sharp. "Yes, something's moving." From the shadows of the plateau, a low, mechanical hum began. Mara's stomach tightened. She recognized the sound, the scavenger machines from yesterday. And now, they were not alone. More of them emerged from the shadows, larger this time, with red sensors glowing like eyes in the dim light. "Get behind me," Jace commanded. He swung his rope to knock one machine off balance, while Mara grabbed a rock and hurled it at another. Sparks flew as metal legs skidded across the jagged ground. The machines advanced relentlessly, their movements precise and calculating. Mara felt fear prick at her courage, but she reminded herself of everything she had learned yesterday in the valley and the day before on the ridge. She had survived with Jace beside her. She could do it again. Jace barked orders, pointing to weak spots in the rocks and the edges of the plateau. "Use the terrain! Push him off the ledges if you can!" Mara nodded and moved quickly, pushing a machine near a rock ledge. With careful timing, she used a rope to swing it slightly, sending it skidding over the edge with a clatter. Jace did the same, his movements swift and precise. Together, they worked in silent harmony, each instinctively knowing what the other would do. After a tense few minutes, the last machine tumbled over the ledge, its sensors blinking out as it hit the rocks below. Mara exhaled, her hand shaking. "Good work," Jace said, clapping her on the shoulder. "You kept your head." Mara smiled weakly. "We make a good team." "Yes," Jace replied. "Better than I expected." They turned to the crystal cluster, now free from immediate danger. The shards glimmered in the early light, casting reflections across the plateau. Mara approached carefully, marveling at the sight. She knelt, running her hands along the cool surfaces, testing the stability of each formation.
"These are incredible," she whispered.
"So beautiful." Jace nodded. "We need to gather them carefully. One wrong move and they could shatter or slide down the cliff." Mara began collecting the smaller shards, placing them gently in her pack. Jace moved to help with the larger crystals, using his rope to secure them and prevent them from toppling. Their movements were careful, methodical, but the tension in the air was palpable. Every step could trigger a collapse, every slip could be disastrous. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath them. Mara stumbled, clutching a large crystal. She looked up and saw the rock formation above, shifting loose fragments sliding toward them. "Jace!" she shouted. He reacted instantly, grabbing her arm and pulling her behind a larger boulder. Rocks tumbled around them, narrowly missing both. Mara's heart pounded as she pressed close to him, feeling his steady presence. The danger was real, but so was the trust between them. When the rock settled, Jace looked at her. "You all right?" "Yes," Mara said, her voice trembling. "Thanks to you." "You saved yourself too. That counts." They continued their work, gathering crystals with care. Mara felt a sense of pride with each one she collected, not just for the crystals themselves, but for the journey, the challenges, and the bond she shared with Jace. The rope that had saved her life on the ridge was gone now, but the invisible thread connecting them was stronger than ever. As the last shard was secured, a distant rumble echoed through the plateau. Mara's eyes widened. "Another predator?" Jace scanned the horizon. "No, bigger. Something mechanical, but massive." From the shadows emerged a towering machine, taller than any creature Mara had ever seen. Its body was armored, with glowing sensors scanning the plateau. It moved with purpose, its steps shaking the ground. Mara felt a surge of fear, but Jace's calm presence steadied her. "We can't outrun it," Jace said, "but we can use the crystals." He pointed to the cluster, now partially exposed after their work. "If we position ourselves right, the reflections and light from the shards can confuse its sensors. We might buy enough time to escape." Mara nodded. "Let's do it." They moved quickly, arranging the crystals in a way that caught the early sunlight. When the machine approached, its glowing sensors flickered as the light reflected off the shards, creating a dazzling pattern. It hesitated, confused, and Jace grabbed Mara's hand. "Now," he said. Together, they ran across the plateau, their packs heavy with crystals. The machine stumbled, trying to follow, its sensors disoriented by the reflections. Mara and Jace leapt over rocks, ducked under low branches, and pushed themselves forward with every ounce of strength. Finally, they reached the edge of the plateau, where the ground sloped toward a safer valley below. They paused, catching their breath, and looked back. The machine faltered, then turned, retreating into the shadows. Mara exhaled, relief washing over her. "We did it," she said, a mixture of amazement and exhaustion in her voice. "Yes," Jace said, smiling faintly. "We did." They stood together, the twin suns rising higher, casting light across the alien landscape. Mara felt a profound sense of accomplishment. They had faced predators, machines, treacherous terrain, and danger at every step. And they had survived together. Mara looked at Jace, seeing the determination and calm in his eyes, and she realized something else. The bond between them, forged in danger and trust, was unbreakable. The rope that had saved her on the ridge had been the first link, but every shared challenge, every act of trust, had strengthened the invisible thread connecting their lives. I couldn't have done it without you," Mara said quietly. "You would have done the same for me," Jace replied. "We make a good team, remember?" Mara smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. "The best team," she said softly. They began their descent back toward the settlement, careful with their precious cargo. The valley stretched out before them, alive with color and life. Mara's steps were lighter now, not just from relief, but from the knowledge that she was no longer alone in this dangerous, beautiful world. As they walked, Jace glanced at her. "You know, the rope wasn't just about saving your life. It's about trust, connection, the kind that keeps people alive when the world is against them." Mara looked down at the pack, at the crystals glowing faintly inside. "I think I understand now," she said. "The rope, it's more than just rope. It's the thread that binds us, through danger, through adventure, through everything." "Exactly." They moved forward, the settlement visible in the distance, small lights twinkling like stars. Mara felt a thrill of hope. They had succeeded in their mission, survived the dangers, and strengthened the bond between them. The thread that began on the ridge had held true, guiding them through the alien frontier. As the sun fully rose, casting golden light across the canyon, Mara realized something important. The adventure was over for now, but the journey, her connection with Jace, the trust, the courage, would continue. She felt ready for whatever came next, knowing that the invisible thread that bound them together would never break. Jace walked beside her, silent but steady, a constant presence in the alien world. Mara felt safe, inspired, and connected. Together, they would face whatever challenges the frontier had in store, and together, they would thrive. And as they reached the settlement, their steps quickening with excitement and relief, Mara understood one final truth. The rope had saved her life, but the thread that bound their souls had saved something even more important: their trust, their courage, and the beginning of something lasting between them.